So NVIDIA is everywhere with AI in the news, right? What about GPUs? If you walk into a store like I did, look, I walked into Best Buy, I wanted to see what GPUs are available. Are they really expensive still? Are there any discounts? Which models are available? I checked my local Best Buy, and surprisingly, there were a lot of GPUs in stock. If you notice, it's kind of missing the really high-end ones. Like I didn't see any 4080s or 4090s in this particular store, but you'll see pretty much everything else. The 4070 Ti, which I guess you could say is the most high-end GPU that I've seen here, that GPU is still relatively expensive. You know, a lot of these models are over the $799 MSRP, like $850 and prices like that. So that kind of basically becomes a more practical high-end GPU, if you will. At least the 4070 Ti Super, at least it got 16 gigabytes of VRAM with that super refresh, because the 12 gigabytes of VRAM on the original 4070 Ti just wasn't cutting it for this type of price class. And then obviously you're going to see your 4070 Super, and then you're going to see a mix of AMD GPUs. AMD mostly seems to stay on sort of the more, manageable, more budget end of the GPU spectrum, at least when it comes to Best Buy. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor, VIP-CDKdeals.com, a Windows Pro CD key. Add to cart, you put in code CC20. This will also work on Windows 11. You want to go into your settings in Windows, change and adjust your CD key, click activate, and now let's go back to the video. And then you'll still see some older NVIDIA GPUs. Like I even saw a 3060, which is pretty funny. And obviously you're going to have a 4060, 4060 Ti. Anytime you start to get under that $500 price, it gets a little bit murky because sometimes you can get a really good deal on like an AMD 7800 XT. Sometimes it's really expensive for like a 4060 Ti. They're still not, as cheap as they should be, especially the 8 gigabyte model. So it's hard to get an affordable, really nicely performing GPU unless you're really careful and you happen to catch one on sale or something like that. So, I was surprised. The Best Buy actually had a lot of GPUs in stock, and this kind of runs the gamut of what people would typically buy. A 4090 and 4080 and a 7900 XTX from AMD. Those are going to be more of like a very specific, enthusiast or somebody who has a lot of money to spend, and most people are going to go for a 4070 Ti Super and below. Don't get me wrong, a 4070 Ti Super is still very expensive, so at $800 something, it's still not exactly $1,000 GPU, but it's as expensive as like a 1080 Ti used to be at $699 a few years ago, so it's more than that. So we do have to kind of balance these things out. Now, when we look at Micro Center, which is going to have obviously a bigger selection of GPUs, this is going to be local stores that you can actually go to in the US. Now, they have a lot of 4090s in stock, or at least enough of a variety. Prices are very high, obviously, probably average close to $2,000. Some models like the Asus Strix are more. So you're going to see a lot of these 4090s in stock, some 4080 Supers as well. And then you're going to get that little bit of a price drop off as you hit like the 7900 XTX and the AMD high-end GPUs. These are also available, and obviously some of the older generation GPUs are going to be mixed in here. Like sometimes you'll see a non-super like 4070 Ti or something like that. So you do have to be careful when you're shopping to make sure you're buying the newest version, like the super variant, or maybe not an AMD 6800 XT, which they still are selling, and maybe a 7800 XT. Just make sure you don't make that mistake, or somebody maybe not everybody follows GPU news like you guys. That's why you should subscribe, smash that like button. And you need to know the difference between generations, and the store sometimes makes it a little bit confusing if you don't know what you're looking for. And as we continue to go down the line, obviously you're going to see your 4070 Ti's as well, and the super version, and then the 4070 Super. These are going to be in that, the $600 to $900 range. Everything else above that, the 4080 Super, 7900 XTX, and 4090 are going to be considerably more expensive. And then as you go down, you'll see some AMD GPUs interspersed here, like a 7900 XT, GPUs like that. Then obviously you start getting to the regular 4070, which they still sell, usually in the $500 range. under $500, that's when you start to get to the 7800 XT, and then a bunch of like 4060 Ti's and a bunch of miscellaneous GPUs. It's actually pretty hard to choose when it's $500 or under because there's so many GPUs, and some of them you don't know if the pricing is good or not. If you're careful, you could maybe buy a 16 gigabyte 4060 Ti at the same price as an 8 gigabyte one, but if somebody doesn't shop around or see, they may end up overpaying for something like that. When it comes to like the high-end GPUs, often it's an easier decision. If you have the money for a 4090, you just go and buy, a particular model. It's pretty easy. There's not too much competition or any competition at all. When you get to the 4080 Super, if you don't want AMD, you have to get a 4080 Super. There's nothing else in terms of competition that's going to be reasonable. So as you get to the 4070 and below, that's where AMD becomes pretty competitive with the 7800 XT. And then obviously NVIDIA has a gamut of different GPUs that also stay competitive. So overall, from seeing actual stores, obviously there's a good amount of stock, so we're not in any type of GPU shortage. Even though Best Buy didn't have like 4080s or 4090s, they did have most of the other GPUs like in fairly healthy numbers. Gotta remember, Best Buy is not going to sell a million of these GPUs like Micro Center. They have a smaller selection, and online obviously they may have more. Some stores may have less than this and likely will. This store seemed to be pretty stacked with these GPUs, but I'm guessing all Best Buys and computer stores in general are probably kind of overstocked on most models of GPUs. So let's see what happens. I mean, RTX 50 series is going to make it even worse in a sense, because then you're going to have even more GPUs and nobody's going to want to buy these older ones. And it doesn't seem like the GPU companies like NVIDIA and AMD really like giving too many discounts. Like, you would have thought that some of these GPUs would have heavy price reductions, but most of them are still pretty much close to the price that they launched. Even if they don't sell, they stay on the shelves. I guess when you make as much money as NVIDIA does with AI, they don't really care if they lose a few bucks with some, gamer and consumer products, because now gaming is a small fraction of their massive data center and sort of AI, total, products and worth and everything like that. All right, guys, so let me know what you think down below. Remember to smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.